This is the story of a dying and soon dead industry. While Blockbuster was once a community hotspot, they have since fallen into bankruptcy and have little chance of ever coming back. While technology might have killed off Blockbuster, there remain 60 million Americans without internet access. Those lacking internet access have lost their contact with the world of entertainment and pop culture. Blockbuster's 80,000 former employees were also caught in the crossfire and were left out of work during an economic depression of the late 2000s.
Shifting consumer tastes in the way we rent movies has made the video store almost obsolete. In fact, most remaining stores are the same type that started the trend in the 1980s. Small, family-owned video stores with a few movies and low overhead.
Blockbuster Video at Mount Annan hasn't been this busy in years, which is why it's closing down.
Everything must go. All DVDs, $12.99 or less. Store closing. The signs are everywhere. Your favorite neighborhood Blockbuster video store is shutting down for good.
It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart because there has been so many good memories and everything else, and I just think the change of times is not a positive change of time.
We haven't had anybody just say, well, I'm done, I'm walking out, when we told them. Nobody has. And we've tried to treat everybody as fairly as we could when we told them that we were going to close the store. So that's a tribute to them, and I think to the company as well, that everybody feels they want to see it to the end properly. It hasn't been an easy thing to do, but a lot of things in life are not.
Seattle is a high-tech area. We have Amazon, Cray, Apex, and Microsoft all headquartered here, so it makes sense that video rental is extraordinarily rare around here. Blockbuster, the most recognizable face of video rental, hasn't been here since 2013. And Family Video, the largest video rental chain with 710 stores, is also nowhere to be found. Yet somehow, a handful of video rental places manage to stick around without the brand recognition of Blockbuster. For example, a store in Seattle named Scarecrow Video claims to be the largest video rental store on Earth, yet it's in the most hostile environment possible. To see how this works, I visited Scarecrow to find out.
My name's Matt Lynch. I'm the marketing coordinator here at Scarecrow Video. Scarecrow Video is the largest nonprofit video archive on Earth. We have 130,000 individual titles, more than any other place in the world. We went nonprofit in 2014 to sort of keep the place open after the old owners decided that they didn't want to run it as a for-profit business anymore. Being a nonprofit allows us to chase grants, we can have volunteers, we can take donations, we can sell memberships, things that we wouldn't be able to do in a for-profit model that allows us to sort of take in a lot of extra revenue that way. And it allows us primarily to keep this huge collection available and open to the public. The original store opened, there's barely even a store open in the late 80s in a guy's apartment, in our founder's apartment, and only about 600 VHS tapes that he would rent to his friends and stuff. And over the years, we just accumulated more and more and more stuff. I mean, we've been open for almost 30 years, so You know, it's a long time to keep acquiring things, and the mission's always been to get as much as we can. And it's just basically a product of time. You can come here, and we have it all. You know, you can stay home and watch what they've got, or you can come here and get something you want.
That phrase has been the cornerstone of Scarecrow for years now. Matt Lynch was seen in a 2013 interview with another filmmaker saying the same thing.
But you could stay home and watch what they've got, or come in and get something that you want. That's what I like to say.
And he's not wrong. The reason Scarecrow Video and other non-Blockbuster stores have been able to stay open is by selection rather than lack of internet connection. Though selection alone isn't enough, Scarecrow and stores like it have transitioned into nonprofits as well.
There's all kinds of resources that we can use that we couldn't utilize as a for-profit model, like volunteers or donations and grants and things to finance and fundraise for those programs. But we're still, you know, one of the things that we're doing is doing some pretty active fundraising. That's a big part of how this nonprofit survives and how any nonprofit survives. When we ran our Kickstarter to start the nonprofit, I mean, we raised $70-something thousand in like 12 hours. So, you know, we do pretty good. We have all kinds of screening situations where film clubs come in and show their movies. We engage with the community. We go out and show things and screen movies for like senior outreach programs. We help out with SIF and all kinds of other stuff. You know, we're trying to stay part of an engaged part of the community. That's sort of our long-term strategy.
There are 2 video rental stores left in Seattle that continue to be profitable businesses, and both declined to comment for this documentary. What we do know is that the remaining for-profit rental businesses own their shops and don't have to worry about paying off a lease. The businesses that had to commit to 5-year leases have either transformed into donation-driven nonprofits or have gone out of business. This level of instability isn't so present in the uncharted lands of Alaska. While the lower 48 was rapidly gaining high-speed internet access, Alaska remained mostly untouched, resulting in the states having the least amount of coverage out of anywhere in America. A large portion of Alaska doesn't even get satellite or landline phone coverage, much less cable or TV internet. This is due to Alaska's strange topography and magnetic pole, which blocks satellite access to the outside world. There doesn't seem to be a better place for the remaining Blockbusters to survive. The industry gets to live in a vacuum where competition isn't possible.
My name is Kevin Damude. I'm the general manager here at Blockbuster Video in Alaska.
How do people react when they see that you still, run a Blockbuster?
It is insane. I mean, people are just shocked that they come to Alaska and see a Blockbuster Video, which they used to grow up with, in the lower 48. And of course, there's none really that I know of. There's one still left in Oregon, and that's the only Blockbuster I know of in the lower 48 that is still around. So it's really interesting to see the customers come in and tell us stories they used to be when they grew up, and just shocked. So you get a lot of people coming in the summertime, especially, taking pictures of the building, taking pictures of us. It's pretty insane.
Here in Alaska, it's not like a big deal, but when I go to the lower 48, it is a whole nother story. People are very surprised. They almost don't even believe me. I usually have like a shirt with me, I definitely have to bring a shirt or a sweater on my trip, and I'll wear it, and I do get stopped like, oh my gosh, do you really, is there a Blockbuster still? Yes, there is. I work there.
Alaska has a different culture than the rest of America, a culture free from the pursuit of instant gratification and rather a focus on personal connection. You can't have a conversation with a computer algorithm, and thus the Alaskan population is content doing things the old-fashioned way. It might be slower, but it's personal.
When I grew up, everything was retail. I did a lot of retail, managing various businesses and all that. And everything is customer service, customer service, customer service to me. I'm very old school. We greet everybody when they come in, we thank them when they leave. And I see a lot of changes, and not for the better. I think it's just, hey, get them in, get them out, get them in and get them out, and get that quantity, not the quality, And it's sad that it's come to that. And that's where we make a difference. because now you can talk to somebody. You can sit there and say, you know, hey Kevin, I didn't get to see this movie. Okay, no problem. Let's just recheck it out to you for free. Go take it home and see it. I'm not going to sit there and, you know, and just say, well, you didn't see it, that was your chance, go. And that's what they like. They like that one-on-one. And, you know, too bad you didn't come in like on a Tuesday, because we knew everybody, and it's always the same customers over and over again. That's what they like. They keep coming back only for, I mean, the customer service is huge, you know? I hold stuff for them, they're waiting for them. As soon as they walk in, there they are. They got their stuff and they're gone. So it doesn't take much to give that little something extra. And that's what we're here to give. And that makes a difference.
What brought you here today?
We heard that there was a Blockbuster. We came from California and we heard that Blockbuster was in Alaska. So we wanted to go and check it out because it's been a long time.
What's funny is that our friends actually told us that the last one closed down, and so we were this close to not even coming. But then Rachel decided to call and check Google, and they answered. We went crazy. So we're here. Happy. Yeah.
When you come into a Blockbuster, you meet the customers, or you meet the staff that works here, and what they do usually is give you hand-on customer service. When you're with Netflix, it limits you to social, surroundings and people that you deal with every day. It's kind of like, it's boring not being able to go to Blockbuster, because you meet people. But when you go to Netflix, their channels, they're usually, social media is just blown out of proportion, so I like Blockbuster a lot better than Netflix.
And renting a movie to me is different than turning on Netflix every night and turning on, and I know most people do it, but this just makes something, it's like going to the movies, that's special, but this is, different.
I'm in a dead zone at 13.5 mile Hot Springs Road where I live. There's no, up in our subdivision, there's no cable, nothing. And the trees, the way they've grown between us and the highway, in my part, our part of the subdivision, it's just dead. There's nothing there, cable, satellite, nothing. Since I got my new credit card, it's got the chip in it, and I try to slide through Redbox, it don't read. So my only other choice then, I have to go to the bank and get one of those bank cards that will read in those, like a credit card.
We don't always qualify for internet, so we have the AT&T box that you just can take wherever. We have to stand in strategic spots in our home to get a phone call or to call out, and so downloading a TV show or something can kind of be sketchy. A 45-minute show will take us about 3 hours to watch.
So onto the community event and that kind of thing, how do you think Blockbuster helps communities?
In our community, it provides a way for people to get entertainment that they wouldn't necessarily get. A lot of places in the outlying areas or even in the hills may be situated in a certain way that they don't get any TV at all, or can't get cable, can't get internet, things like that. So I think it provides them an inexpensive way to get entertainment and TV.
And so how much does an internet plan that could stream video cost around here, do you know?
Probably close to $100 a month. And then you are limited on how much, you know what I mean? You can't, I don't know how many gigs, one of the younger kids could probably tell you exactly. I mean, you run out of data pretty quick. My brother came up from Oklahoma City a couple years ago, and he was surprised at how fast he ran out of internet in 2 days and couldn't use it for the rest of the month. So with that cheaper plan. And I have to limit my usage of it because it runs out pretty quickly. Otherwise, I mean, there's another internet plan I could get, but it's very slow. There's no way that I would even get through, a YouTube video on how to, change a tire or something like that. It would stop and glitch constantly.
While driving from Anchorage to Fairbanks, I found multiple convenience stores that had been transformed into video rental spots. These places were so remote that the gas stations that showed up every 100 miles or so were considered town centers. I impulsively stopped at one that was located just before Denali, and without planning anything, I went in filming.
Okay, we're at 2434. My name's Robin Kling, and I'm the nighttime clerk at the Willow Video Store.
Are there a lot of other video rental places around here, or is it just like...
Not that I know of. It's just this one and the few Blockbusters that are left. I'm not even sure if there's one in Talkeeton anymore. There used to be a long time ago. So I live up about 10 miles up the road or whatever, and my neighbor has a hard time getting any kind of internet or whatever. I don't even have internet, so, you know, I mean, there's not a lot of income that generated up here, you know, so cost of living is very expensive, so everybody tries to cut down on their monthly bills, the every month kind of thing or whatever, so that stops a lot of people from doing the internet. And if we were in Anchorage, it probably wouldn't make a dime, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Do you build a relationship with your customers? Like, do you have like some familiar ones?
Oh yeah, yep, repeats for sure, and we get to know all of them by first name and their video account numbers, and we got about 6,000 of them, so after a while you'll know them all by individual person, you know. But yeah, we got about 6,000 members here. We have more of a selection here because Blockbuster will have like 5 of one copy, whereas at the most we have is 2 of one copy. But most things out here are just individual single copies, so we probably got more of a selection than a Blockbuster, I would imagine, just because it seemed to me like they would have 10 of each one, you know, so.
So does that mean inventory gets in the way then? Like if a few people, you know, rent one type of film, you run out of that. Does that ever get in the way, or?
Oh yeah, we'll have definitely a run on like Justice League. When it came in here, man, it was flying out of here so fast, people were waiting 3 weeks to watch it. You know, Thor was kind of the same way too. And we had a couple of copies of each one, and they would just come, I mean, people were calling us up, can you save it for me? And it's like, well, we try not to do that. It's the first one in the door, you know. But yeah, people were literally calling us up trying to get us to save them movies and stuff for them.
The on-camera interview with Robin lasted for just 6 minutes. However, the 30-minute conversation I had with him afterwards dove a lot more into what it's like to be so rural. He possessed countless stories about people racking up hundreds in late fees or teenagers getting too scared to return their adult films. I thought these kind of stories were extinct, just relics echoed by the generations before me. But as it turns out, if you go to a place like Willow, Alaska, where there's just 1,600 documented citizens, the stories of the past become the stories of the present. This won't last for long, and it's amazing it's lasted for as long as it has. So now I think it's appropriate that we take a step back and see how this all started, how video rental came to be, and how it fought to last this long.
Hey, welcome to my DVD collection, which I happen to keep at Blockbuster.
This is a demonstration of the graphic user interface for the Blockbuster Enron video on demand service.
Think of all the mature, responsible things you could be doing.
Wow, what a difference!
This week at all record bar outlets, a new dimension of sight and sound. Scotch EG all-purpose video cassettes L750 or T120, only $4.99. Scotch EXG video cassettes unsurpassed color L750 or T120, only $7.99.
Oh my gosh. I remember when my dad got his first VCR, he bought a display model from Cars Supermarket. And I remember it cost like $700. It was so outrageously priced. And we were so excited because now we can go rent movies and all that. And of course, that's the only way we could get them was renting them. And at that time, you didn't just grab a movie and rent it and pay for it. You'd have to actually have to buy a punch card. And you get the punch card and you get it punched off as you go, and you got to keep buying punch cards as you fill them up. So totally different. I mean, it's just interesting how much, and of course, you know, with the computer system and everything else, you know, big difference from the 80s, early 80s, or late 70s, excuse me, to now.
I mean, I remember we bought our first VCR for $500, and that was cheap. Because when they first came out, I think they were a couple of grand. But people were willing to invest that kind of money in the 80s to be able to watch a movie.
We had 5 kids in our family, and growing up, it was expensive to take everybody to the movie theater. When VHS came out, I probably was in high school, middle school. It was a fun event. We didn't have a whole lot of channels either on TV, here in Fairbanks. We maybe had 2 stations, and we were lucky to get those in. And our movies were all the broadcasting was delayed. They would have to ship it up here.
The VCR was built to be a time shifter on television. That's what it was all about. It was about recording your TV shows and watching it when you wanted to watch it and skip through the commercials. The studios decided, well, maybe we can sell movies. And the movies were $60 to $80, maybe some of them were as much as $100, because they couldn't get past the fact that multiple people could sit there in the living room and watch that movie. So there was no way they were going to sell it at the prices you're familiar with today. So when VHS tapes came out at that kind of cost, some very enterprising entrepreneurs decided, well, I think I'll rent them. And that's what started it all. And it was a very mom and pop business that just exploded all over the country with innovative people making a whole lot of money. And the studios actually sued to try to stop it and lost.
The creation of VHS was essentially responsible for the inception of Blockbuster. Before the era of VHS and Betamax, there weren't many good ways to rent out films. It all started when JVC invented the modern VHS tape in 1971, which by the mid-1980s was found in nearly every household. Blockbuster's founder, David Cook, realized the potential in video rental and renamed his oil company to Blockbuster Video in 1985 and opened his first store. It was an immediate success, and Blockbuster began expanding, and so did the industry as a whole. That's where Alan Payne comes in. He's the CEO of Warner Entertainment and has been responsible for keeping the handful of Blockbusters alive. He got in early as a franchisee and has played quite the role in a lot of communities.
So it kind of, I have like all the notes on my phone.
Okay.
So it kind of starts with like your very like beginnings, like how you transitioned into this. And so I want to start with just like your introduction, like introduce yourself and your position with your company.
Okay, my name is Alan Payne, and I own Border Entertainment, and I have since 2010. And before, I'm sorry, back that up. I don't know why I said 10, 2000. And before that, I ran the stores that I now own since 1993. And before that, I worked for a company called HEB that is the number one grocery company in Texas. And that's where I got into the business, because they decided in 1986 that they wanted to not only do video rental in the supermarkets, but they wanted to open freestanding stores as well. So they put me in charge of the operations of that. And we opened our first store in 1987. And to put that in perspective, there were about 30 Blockbuster stores at the time. You know, I didn't make the decision to get into Blockbuster until after I had really learned the business at HEB. We competed with Blockbuster for 7 years. And from 1987 up until 1993. And that's kind of why I look at the business differently, because we had to learn how to beat them, which we did very, very successfully. We never opened a store against Blockbuster that we didn't do at least twice what they were doing in volume.
HEB Video Central presents Summer Magic, where you can win one of millions of prizes every time you play.
HEB was a popular Texas grocery store turned video rental. They started out with a video rental aisle in their grocery stores and then turned that into standalone shops. In 1992, HEB decided to sell off its video rental division to Hollywood Video, which left Alan Payne, the manager of the video rental stores, with a few options.
I had a choice. I could either go with Hollywood and work with them. I could have stayed with HEB and gone back to the supermarkets. And it was just a total coincidence that a Blockbuster franchise group that was based here in Austin needed somebody to run it for them. And they called me up about the time all this was happening. And we got together, and that's how I wound up with Blockbuster. So I started out running stores, franchise stores, before I owned them. I was on the operations side of it for 13, 14 years before I actually owned them. And we got the opportunity to buy the stores I was running right before 2000. and we closed on that deal in early 2000.
The early 90s was quite the time for Blockbuster. They were both renting movies and video games and were opening a new store every 17 hours, hiring new employees at an incredible rate.
So what was your first movie-related job?
Oh, it has to be here. I started working here in 1991. So I've been here for quite a while. I've been here to the beginning, you know, with all the hype of the video store businesses and all that stuff. And it was just fun. It was just fun. It was entertaining. It was great to talk about movies to customers.
My first movie-related job was working at the same neighborhood video that I started at, that I would rent movies at.
So what was it like working at the company during such an intense growth? Because you were there for the last 3 years of that just huge spike Blockbuster had.
Oh yeah. It was crazy. Like I said, we were growing so fast. It's like, it seemed like every year we were putting in another store, you know. So it was overwhelming in a way, but it was so fun to do. I mean, it was just like, okay, now where we're gonna grow now? Oh, we're gonna go to Kodiak, or we're gonna go to Juneau, we're gonna go to Ketchikan. So it was just cool to see that, and then see the excitement of the customers as we open up the stores. Because, you know, everybody's heard of Blockbuster at that time. Now we're getting our own Blockbusters here. So it was just cool. It was fun. It was challenging, but that's what I love the challenges.
Blockbuster was the only one that looked at the entire country as their market and went after it with just unbelievable speed and aggressiveness. The business model was so predictable at the time. It was hard to make a mistake unless you just completely screwed up a real estate decision and went someplace you shouldn't be at all. Every store was successful. So it was not like you were having to do a bunch of research to figure out which ones would work and which ones would not work. They all worked because the industry was growing so fast. And they didn't really have, on a national scale anyway, they didn't have a significant competitor. They had regional competitors that were doing well, but on a national scale they didn't. So their entire focus was, how do we grow this thing as fast as we possibly can? Now the offshoot of that is their focus was so much on growth that I don't think they paid near as much attention to actually what a store ought to be and how they should be dealing with their various competitors. They never reacted to anything a competitor did, very rarely.
Blockbuster acquired Sound Warehouse in 1992 as an attempt to make Blockbuster music stores. Blockbuster wanted to be more than movie and video game rental. Corporate had a vision of Blockbusters becoming massive entertainment centers, and as you'll soon find out, that was one of their first failures.
Blockbuster was literally making so much money that they didn't know what to do with it. They had this vision of Blockbuster becoming more than just a video store chain. It was going to become an entertainment company. The music business was just one piece of that. They also got into owning live music venues. They bought a company called Discovery Zone. It was a child entertainment company where you would take your kids to play indoors. It was an indoor playland. I don't think Blockbuster ever really understood exactly what they wanted to do with it. They wanted to really upgrade the music buying experience, and it just didn't translate into sales and profit. You know, not long after that, Napster and everything started impacting the music business, and it was just bad timing. So it didn't work, neither did Discovery Zone.
I know when we had some music in our stores here in Alaska, and that's a tough market to get into because you don't know what genre is going to do well and what's not going to, you know. Where here it might be, you know, let's say country versus you go to the south part of Anchorage, it could be country or it could be jazz. There's just too many different genres you don't know what to do with. So music business is really tough to get into, you know, selling CDs and all that. We tried it, it didn't work very well for us, and we got out of it. We didn't go as far as they did, of course, with Blockbuster Corporate.
After a change of CEOs in 1997, Blockbuster was faced with two major challenges. They had to face rapid technological advancements in both internet and also DVD technology. Any given Blockbuster video has about 60,000 total titles in their library, and acquiring all of that in a new format that is not entirely supported yet is a big undertaking. And so is dealing with the numerous customers who did not own a DVD player yet, as Blockbuster now had customers who could not get video for their home systems from a Blockbuster because they're still on VHS.
DVD was small, you could skip, think about that. You couldn't skip around on a VHS.
Yeah.
you had to fast forward, and sometimes it'd break. You know, you were afraid to do it because it might break. So you had the quality, the ability to skip around. It was much smaller, and for our business, it was the change of paying $40 to $50 for a movie to 20 to 20.
VHSs, cost-wise, for us to pay for them versus DVDs, DVDs are probably about a fourth less in price than it cost us for the VHSs. So I mean, there's times where VHSs cost us like $80 a piece.
Two things. We had the opportunity to improve our margins dramatically. We did in our company, Blockbuster didn't. They didn't improve their margins very much with the transition from VHS to DVD. But we also had the enormous challenge of replacing our inventory. And that took a huge commitment to say, we believe that we're going to have to not only buy the new releases that came out, we're going to, as the studios re-released all this old stuff, we had to go buy it if we were going to move that VHS customer to DVD. And we were completely committed to it. Blockbuster was not. They just weren't. In fact, they told us they didn't think the customer considered format that important. And I know in our case, we spent several $100,000 rebuilding those inventories. In fact, when you go in the stores up there, you'll see. In fact, you may have never seen this in a Blockbuster before, but you'll see shelves in units that are eight shelves high. It looks more like a supermarket than it does what you would think a low-profile Blockbuster store. The reason is that when think about it, we went from having 15 to 20 units of VHS tapes in a store to having to have that many DVD in the same store, in the same square footage. And for a long time there, VHS was still a huge part of the business, so you couldn't just sell it off and get out of it. You had to satisfy two completely different customer types. When somebody walked in the store, they'd either bought a DVD player or they hadn't. The one that did, that's all they wanted. The one that didn't, all they wanted was VHS. It was two completely different customers. That was our view, and we think we were right. Blockbuster didn't look at it that way. They tried to continue to rent the older movies in VHS and buy the new ones in DVD. And I think that was a huge part of, we talk about the decline, that's something I left out because I think that was maybe the most important part of that. There was a lot of other things going on in those early 2000s, but that was a huge part of it.
By the year 2004, Blockbuster began slowly phasing out their late fee program, and eventually doing away with late fees entirely by 2007, which many would consider is the final nail in the coffin for Blockbuster.
I think a component of it is Blockbuster's independence. They had some financial constraints put on them when they spun off. They got saddled with a lot of debt from Viacom. That had an impact on their ability to do the things they wanted to do. And I think Blockbuster struggled in that time frame to really figure out what was going to work best for them going forward.
They didn't know where they wanted to go, which direction. And that's the way I thought it, because they're always changing things around. Like there'll be times where they're, to give you an idea, they wanted to open up, they wanted to have a little deli stand or a little, coffee and all that. And they committed to it, and it didn't work, But when they committed completely to it, and that's a lot of money to commit to where something that fails. And they wanted to get into the media business and sell TVs and DVD players and Blu-rays. And once again, you only have so much of an area, so to sell that off, you have to take away something. So you're taking away your rental business. Well, Blockbuster's a rental business. So when you take that away, it's going to affect something, And when it doesn't give you that money that you're expecting, and yet now your movies are declining.
If you know the end of late fee story, that was kind of after they had tried, I don't know how many different things on price and term and this promotion and that promotion and everything in the world. They tried it all. And they finally decided they were going to have to eliminate late fees, which I thought, and I still believe, it was one of the most ill-advised, stupid business decisions I've ever seen. And they would argue the other side of it, I'm sure, to this day. They were convinced that the loss of, what was it, $300 or $400 million in profit would be offset by increased traffic. Not even close. Not even close.
They didn't realize the whole picture of it, to where if you do no late fees, you have to have enough movies here to supply the demand. Because if I don't have to bring, let's say, Blade Runner back for another 20 days, nobody else can rent it. So you don't get the turns, which means you don't get the rentals from it. So that's a huge thing right there. But once you're committed to it, you can't get it, you can't take it away. You see what I'm saying? So, and they committed everything to this no late fee thing, thinking that's where they're missing the boat. Well, it also opened up a whole nother can of worms, which they had to pay out more money for more rentals, but yet they're not getting the turns, which means they're not getting the revenue for those titles.
They, started with the no late fee policy as a franchisee. We chose not to participate in the program, which the franchisees that did choose to participate were the ones that kind of stayed a little, were able to stay and maintain a little bit longer. Those that chose to ride the wave with corporate, they lost their businesses because people didn't have any sense of urgency to return their movies, so they didn't have anything on the shelves to rent. So I really think that was kind of their kind of slow death.
They completely lost control of their inventory management, and to me, that was as big a part of it as giving up the revenue from the late fees. So my belief is that was you asked the question, what was what kind of started it? Well, there was a lot of things that started it, but the late fee thing to me was the end of it.
This is an extraordinary period for America's economy. Over the past few weeks, many Americans have felt anxiety about their finances and their future. I understand their worry and their frustration. We've seen triple-digit swings in the stock market. Major financial institutions have teetered on the edge of collapse, and some have failed.
The late 2000s were a precarious time for America and its companies. There was a financial crisis, leaving consumerism or really any expenditure by the American people at an all-time low. As a result, hundreds of retailers had to close their stores, and the already struggling chain of Blockbuster Video was no different. Despite the economy getting better, by 2013 Blockbuster had to close their doors for good, leaving just a few independently owned Blockbusters left. Alan Payne and a few other franchisees kept their doors open for as long as possible, even without the help of Blockbuster corporate. Though at this point, it doesn't seem like there's much that could be done for the video rental industry. After I concluded my interview with Alan Payne, he informed me that the remaining 2 Blockbusters in Alaska will be closing by August of 2018, and that he hadn't told a single other employee. So when I got to Alaska and interviewed employees and customers who were reliant on a chain like Blockbuster, it was sad. I made sure to ask customers and employees what they liked about Blockbuster, what they would miss if it were to shut down, and what they plan to do in the event of the store's closing. And the results were telling, especially since at the time of filming, nobody but Alan Payne himself knew that the remaining Blockbusters would be closing. What were some memorable experiences you had with customers in the early years?
Oh wow, there's so many. I've had people come in and just do phenomenal things for my employees that, I just, as a thank you, and that means a lot to me. If my employees are doing good, that just means a lot to me. That means I'm doing something right. And I can't even tell you, all the way from these huge platters as a thank you to gifts, and we don't take those, but it's still nice just to hear it. But gosh, there's so many different things. We have a customer here, his name's Dan Wright. I've known him since 1992. He's been a customer with me from store to store to store. And, you know, he just comes in just to talk, you know, and I like that. You know, it's something that makes me feel like, wow, you guys are following me around from store to store. It just kind of makes me feel like I'm something special. And that's where these employees, you know, I have a great employee crew. And then when that happens, you get all these different, you know, memories you have. I mean, we've had memories of people doing great things for, you know, one of the employees got stuck because we had a snowstorm. And I was going, okay, well, we'll figure out something. A customer, you know, got into his truck, drove over to his house, picked him up and brought him to work. He didn't have to do that. He just wanted to do it. Because he knew, you know, he knew the person needed the hours and all that stuff. So he says, and then call me up if you need a ride, pick me up. I'll pick you up and I'll take you back home. You know, that's just, and that was probably in the early 90s it was. And it was just cool. You know, you don't see that. And, you know, so there's a lot of big memories we have. You know, people coming in and just telling me, you know, seeing their kids grown up. I can't even tell you, I see, you know, a couple of my old customers where I remember when they were just a baby and I was holding them as a baby and now they're like adults and it's like, whoa, I feel way too old for this. But that was probably the biggest memory was when somebody got into his truck, and I mean it was a snowstorm. They were literally stuck at their house and drove all the way to his house, which was quite a ways away. Picked him up and brought him to work.
So.
And what do you enjoy about working here?
Really, it's got to be the customer interaction. We have a really strong base of loyal customers that come in all the time. You get to know them, and you know, just you get to know like what kind of movies they like, and you get to talk with them, get to know people.
I guess the environment, it's very friendly. We all feel like a big family here. It's a lot of fun. I definitely don't get a lot of work environments like this. You know, we're all friends here.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, how many times you see commercials, and I'm so sick of it. You don't have to leave the comfort of your own home. It's like, I kind of want to go outside. I kind of want to meet somebody, you know, talk to somebody. But yeah, it's gotten so bad to where, you know, I can get my house loan and, you know, at home where I can wear whatever I want to wear and all that. So it's just discouraging when you see that, you know, the change of when I first started retail to what I see now. And it's technology, and I understand technology is good to a point, but I really think the social part of it, it's really hindered a lot.
We don't have a whole lot of different providers that offer unlimited internet, so it's harder for people to get that. And if you're streaming, of course, you're going to want unlimited internet because it can cost an arm and a leg to stream movies if you don't. So with that, we have a little niche of people who can't really afford internet, unlimited for what they want to watch, you know, for how often they like to watch things. And there's a lot of people who don't know how to use technology that well. The older generations, they come in and rent movies, and this is all that they know.
Actually, when you come here in person, you can actually find what you need to watch, and if you do it the other way, it's kind of hard to get to where you want to find a movie or what movie you want to watch. When I can't find a movie, I go to customer service. They immediately go over there and find it for me because it takes me a while to find it. I'm not a typer yet, so I'm new at the computers. I do not know much about typing.
I think we're doing our culture a major disservice to take out entry-level jobs. There's a few different parts of the population that need entry-level jobs, and that just
That's how you
gives.
get started.
Yeah,
You know?
it's how you get started or how you finish. Like people who retire and just want to make a little extra money, or get their videos for free, whatever. I think that's important. And then, yeah, just opportunities to stay a part of the community and have that local economy happening. And then just the social aspect of being able to.
And it also gets you off the couch and gets you out and moving.
Factor.
Yeah,
Good factor.
I like coming in and talking to people. I mean, you got human beings there, and you know, it creates jobs. You get Netflix, and you got some big corporate company that you never know who they are. You make no personal connection with them. And the sad thing is, me being an elementary school teacher for a good part of my life, you find that more and more people are so isolated because they're looking at a computer screen or an iPad or iPhone, and they're not communicating with each other. And that's, I think, we're going to pay a price for that eventually.
So what are you playing next? Like after Blockbuster, do you have anything else lined up, or are you considering anything else? Like, where do you want to go next?
Where would I want to go? That's a tough question. Well, I'm going for my master's in teaching. So, and that's the slow process right now, just because I've been busy here. So, you know, I don't know. I don't know what I'd want. I mean, I enjoy retail because I love the customers. I really do. That's all I've ever done. I've managed in, you know, various businesses and everything else. And I've been with this company for so long. You know, it's tough to change my ways.
How long do you think video rental stores in general will last? Like, just a speculation estimate, how long do you think that these will be around?
Ooh. Regretfully so, probably about 5 years. That's my thought. It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart because there has been so many good memories and everything else, and I just think the change of times is not a positive change of time. I really don't. I'm very, like I said, I'm old school. I like to go out. I like to go to these places. But if you think about it, you know, how many businesses are closing down now? It's scary. It's scary out there. Retail businesses are closing left and right, and you know, what's it going to be like in 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road? You know, what's going to be available to us? Everything's going to be online or streaming or whatever. And is that really a good way of doing things? I don't think so, but that's just me.